advanced communicator bronze. We love the whole bronze, silver, gold thing. Now, our tonight's first speaker is a person who a few months ago got her Competent Communicator Award. Earned it, not got it, but earned it is the proper word, because she worked for it for quite a while. Now, she's moved on to her advanced communication track, where, yes, you've guessed it, she has another 10 speeches. But actually, she only has 9 because she did 1. So, tonight's speech is her second speech in her advanced communication series. And it is something that we call the Speeches by Management series. And the speech itself is called A Praise with Praise. And it basically has to do with providing feedback, as a manager providing feedback. Now, I will take the liberty of giving you, at her request, a few ideas about what's going to happen. Tonight, you are going to see a role play rather than a speech. And the role play will be between our speaker, who's being evaluated for this, and some poor guy who just got the job because he didn't have anything else to do. He did, actually. So the person who will be the target of the feedback is Christian Bauer. And let me tell you a bit about Christian and his role tonight. Christian is the team lead for a small team, 7 people, in charge of reporting in a large multinational company. And what he does as a team lead is to do 30% people management, 30% operational, he processes information himself, and 30% mentors and assists new members. So third, and third. And in the last 2 months, the team has been part of a really important project called Alpha. And it all has to do with implementing a new reporting tool which actually increased the workload in the team by 15%. Most team members are motivated and they do their job and they are experiencing what they do, and they did an excellent job. Except for one person. Her name is Cleo. So she's not a fish. So she's a real person. Now, Cleo is 4 months pregnant and seems to care less and less about her work. So you would imagine that for Christy as a manager, it's a burden. Christy noticed the situation, investigated whether this was due to the pregnancy, and found out that actually physically she was quite alright. There was nothing to do with her physical side. But constantly she's late with her reports, and many times she spends extra hours to do the kind of work that, and then he has to correct her mistakes. After all, he is responsible, that's why he does have to correct the mistakes. Now, he feels embarrassed to talk to her because of her pregnancy. And once he tried to have a discussion with her, but he changed his mind and stopped the discussion when she started talking about how concerned she is about the well-being of her baby and the pregnancy and how it will move on and so on. Now, Christy's boss, who is our speaker tonight, has found out about this potential threat from another team member. And that other team member, who's Christy's deputy, his name is Dan, had an informal talk with our speaker. And Dan complained about Christy being less and less approachable, being so busy with the issue of Cleo and her pregnancy and everything. So, this is the issue. And our speaker tonight will be the manager who will try to make the best out of this situation, and I'm sure for all of us it will be an excellent lesson in management. So let's give a big round of applause for Marilena.
Pointing out the 2 minutes on Claudia, to briefly explain you what feedback is. I would say, in short, feedback is exactly the opposite of castigating. Feedback is a way to communicate between two people, and it's a way from the person giving feedback to the person receiving feedback to help the other person to improve a certain activity, to change a certain behavior, to clarify a certain issue at some point. Depends on the situation. There are several things which are very important when we start or we consider providing feedback to somebody. And here I'm talking about constructive feedback. So we should never forget that feedback is about helping the other person. Feedback has to be specific. So in other words, we don't criticize at all or castigate at all the other person in general. We need to point out a certain behavior or issue related to what the other has done. Feedback can be positive or negative. If we talk about positive feedback, that means praising the other person, motivating the other person. This can be done in public, while if we talk about negative feedback, when the purpose is to correct something in the other person's behavior, that should be done in private, not in public. So these are the few main things we should remember when giving feedback, and I like to compare giving feedback with giving a present. When we give a present, we want the other person to feel happy about receiving a present. We don't really give a present just to escape of an object we don't like. If we do that, that's not a real present. Okay, so now we are going to move to our role play. Hello, Christine. Please have a seat. I called this meeting with you today. I know you are very stressed, you don't have time. To find out more about the workload of your team and how do you feel about the Alpha project that is adding to the workload your team is having.
Well, the workload is pretty okay. We had some issues with some reports, but those were corrected during the day, and as you've seen, we had no escalations.
Very good, very good. And I know you're a great team and you have done great in the past. I can always rely on you and your team, and I'm very happy that you have performed along the years in such a way. I would like to ask you, how is the workload divided among the team members?
Well, it's divided pretty equally. As you know, I've been taking some of the things from Chloe. From Cleo, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and but the other guys are doing okay.
Great. And may I ask you, what made you decide to take some things from Cleo?
Well, lately she had some reports that were delayed. She didn't answer on time to some of the requests. I've done this for her because, as you've seen, she's pregnant, and I don't want things to, to have any effect on her baby. I don't want her to be stressed. I don't want her to have
Yeah,
any
very,
issues.
very kind of you to think about her and her pregnancy and the well-being of her and the baby. This is very nice what you do. I would like to ask you further, how do you feel about this?
Well, it had some impact on me. I've given some of the reports almost on the edge. I didn't have any time to talk to some of the team members. They had some issues, and I directed them to other team members, and they solved them independently. But other than that, I've been a little bit probably stressed, as you've seen lately.
Yeah, I noticed that. And how is the team feeling, or what's the opinion of the other people in the team about this situation?
Well, they didn't come to me on purpose, but probably the first first thing that would come to their mind is that I'm doing her a big favor, and I don't know.
Okay. So, to what kind of outcome do you think this situation will get in the future?
In the future, because she will definitely need to go on maternity leave. All of her tasks need to be taken by somebody, need to be divided equally to the members, and also myself, because the hiring is freezed, and we need to do this within ourselves.
Okay. So what can you do in order to improve the situation and the workload and your workload, because I notice you are tired? What can you do on the short term related to Clio?
On the short term, because the Alpha project has been such a success, and we had a 15% reduction on the time we invest in delivering the reports. I'd say that Dan, one of the senior members in the team, can take some of her activities, and also the newcomers that we have, the two newcomers that we have in the team, are a little bit free on Thursday and Friday, and they could take her later activities.
What about Clio herself?
Well, so she's struggling with her activities, I've seen.
I'm asking, what can you do in relationship with her, involving her more? Because I understood she doesn't really have a physical problem.
Yeah, I could talk to her and hand over the activities for the future. And while she's doing this, she's doing them herself.
How do you feel about that, talking with her?
Well, this is gonna be pretty difficult because I've tried once and it didn't work for me. I was pretty nervous. I've never been in such a situation to explain to someone who's pregnant, and it's pretty hard for me.
So, what about thinking about how to proceed further and coming back to me to have a second discussion about what plan you can have in relationship with involving Theo more and relying on other members as well?
Okay, I've given it a thought. I have something, but it's not there yet. If I have, I don't know, a couple of days, that would be enough for me.
Okay. So then we'll meet in 2 days or 3 days time. You let me know when you're ready, and we see what we can both do to better solve this issue. Is that a deal? It's a deal?
Yes, that's a
Okay.
deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to our first speaker and to our role play buddy, or sparring partner. Now, please direct your attention to the vertical ballots, the ballot forms that you have. Now, at the top of it, you will see where it says first speaker. There is one strip of paper which says first speaker. Please take 60 seconds to write one thing that you liked about this speaker and her speech, and one thing that you would recommend her to change or to improve. So one thing, and you can use both sides, just make sure that it's on the same strip. So one positive and one improvement suggestion. 60 seconds. And once you've done that, please tear it off so I can collect it. Thank you. It's a mess for us. Not yet. 10 more seconds. this is your present, your gift.
Thank you very much.
Okay. If it makes, oh, you can just, if you don't mind, I'm going to just pass it to her because she's close to you. Now, this is one interesting thing about Toastmasters, and actually one of the things I love the most, which is once a member becomes competent communicator, means once that person goes through the first 10 communication projects, then they can choose one topic from 15. So the next step actually involves 15 manuals that the person can choose from. And this is one, speeches by management, and there are other specialty speeches and more sales-oriented speeches and so on. All of them are prepared so that the speaker can choose their path after becoming competent communicator. That's a pretty cool thing. Now, once we've flown to the advanced communicator area for a few minutes, we shall return because our next two speakers are doing their very first communication project in the Competent Communicator Manual. That project is called the Icebreaker, and the idea is for the speaker to introduce themselves in front of the club and just have a benchmark of how they speak when they start with Toastmasters. Now, as you know, and as you can see, people are of different levels when they join the club. And that's why we don't compare people with other people. But instead, we compare a member at his 10th speech, for example, with his first speech, or her first speech. So that's the way to really see progress, not to say if that person is better than someone else, because that is useless. So tonight's speeches will be the benchmark for our next two speakers. The second speaker in our order is one